The Midnight Game. It was a chilly October night when 5 teenagers, Liam, Sarah, Matt, Emily, and Jason, gathered at Sarah's house for a sleepover. Bored and looking for a thrill, they decided to browse the internet for urban legends. That's when they stumbled upon the Midnight Game, a forbidden ritual rumored to summon an entity that feeds on fear. "It's probably just a silly superstition," Liam said, trying to sound brave. "Yeah, it's just a game," Jason agreed, though his voice trembled slightly. The rules were simple but eerie. Write your full name on a piece of paper, prick your finger to add a drop of blood, and place the paper in front of a wooden door. Then, at precisely midnight, each person had to light a candle and knock on the door 22 times, open it, blow out the candle, and relight it immediately. This supposedly invited the Midnight Man into their home. The game was to last until 3:33 a.m., and the goal was to avoid being caught by the entity. Sarah read the instructions aloud, her voice wavering with nervous excitement. "Remember, if your candle goes out, you must relight it within 10 seconds. If it doesn't relight, surround yourself with a circle of salt. If the Midnight Man catches you, he'll manifest your worst fears and drag you into darkness." "Are we doing this?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with apprehension. "Come on, it'll be fun," Matt said, though even he didn't seem convinced. At exactly midnight, they followed the steps, their laughter masking a growing sense of unease. They knocked on the door 22 times, opened it, blew out their candles, and relit them. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. They started to relax, thinking it was just another internet hoax. But then, strange things began to occur. A cold draft swept through the house, extinguishing their candles repeatedly. Shadows danced on the walls, and a palpable sense of dread filled the air. The teenagers huddled together, their previous bravado dissolving into genuine fear. "My candle won't stay lit," Jason exclaimed, his hands shaking as he tried to relight it for the 4th time. "Use the salt," Sarah urged, her candle flickering precariously. Jason fumbled with the salt, creating a hasty circle around himself. As he did, he saw a dark figure lurking in the hallway, just beyond the reach of the candlelight. It was tall, featureless, and seemed to absorb the darkness around it. "Liam, do you see that?" Jason whispered, his voice quivering. Liam turned to look, his face draining of color as he too saw the Midnight Man. The entity moved closer, its presence suffocating. The air grew colder, and whispers filled their ears, each voice echoing their deepest fears. "Stay together," Emily said, her voice barely a whisper. "We have to stay together." But panic was setting in. Matt's candle went out, and he failed to relight it in time. Before he could create a salt circle, the Midnight Man was upon him. Matt's scream pierced the air as his worst fear, a swarm of spiders, materialized, covering him in a writhing mass. "Matt!" Sarah screamed, but it was too late. Matt was gone, vanished into the darkness. The remaining 4 huddled closer, their fear intensifying with each passing second. Sarah's candle went out next. She relit it in time, but the damage was done. The Midnight Man was now fixated on her worst fear, drowning, manifested as she suddenly felt the water rising around her, choking her, dragging her down. "We have to end this," Liam shouted. "We have to break the rules, stop the game." "But how?" Emily cried, tears streaming down her face. Liam didn't have an answer. The entity was relentless, feeding on their terror. Jason, unable to bear the psychological torment, broke the circle of salt in a desperate attempt to escape. The Midnight Man seized the opportunity, and Jason's scream echoed through the house as his fear, being buried alive, consumed him. Now, only Liam and Emily remained. They clung to each other, their candles barely providing enough light to keep the entity at bay. The minutes dragged on, each second feeling like an eternity. The Midnight Man's whispers grew louder, more insistent, playing on their deepest insecurities. "We have to keep the candles lit," Liam said, his voice trembling. "We have to survive until 3:33. But Emily's candle went out, and this time it wouldn't relight. The Midnight Man closed in, and Emily's fear of heights manifested. She felt herself falling into an endless abyss, her scream fading into the void. Liam was alone now, his candle flickering weakly. He could feel the Midnight Man's cold presence right behind him. He closed his eyes, trying to block out the whispers, the cold, the overwhelming terror. Finally, the clock struck at 3:33 a.m. The air warmed slightly, the oppressive darkness lifted, and the whispers ceased. Liam opened his eyes to find himself alone in the house. The others were gone, and he was left with the haunting memory of their final moments. The next day, the house was silent, and the police found no trace of his friends. Liam, traumatized and forever scarred by the experience, left the town and never spoke of that night again. But the legend of the Midnight Game lived on, a chilling reminder of the entity that feeds on fear and the deadly game that should never be played.